So you have a student who keeps doing the thing that gets them in trouble, right? And it's not just once, it's not just twice, it's over and over. Even after the consequences, even after the conversation, even after they've told you themselves that they don't want to get in trouble again. But here's the thing, generally speaking, they're not lying. They really don't want the trouble, and yet they do it anyway. And believe it or not, that means that it's not really about defiance. It's a student who can't help themselves because something underneath the behavior is running the show, and it's stronger than their own good intentions. So today we're talking about why that happens and what it means for behavior management in your classroom so you can finally stop taking it personally and start responding to what is actually going on. Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again. I see you. You're struggling to keep your students' attention. You're frustrated with the fact that you don't have any flexibility in your content anymore. You've tried the typical hacks and it just didn't really work out. Maybe you're tired of repeating directions 12 times a day, tired of students blurting out and shutting down. Maybe you're tired of feeling like your creativity has to live in a tiny corner because there's just no time for that. And maybe you're wondering if you can even do this job for another 5, 10, or 15 years. You're not crazy. Things have changed. You're not failing. You're actually a really good teacher. Heck, you've been at it for quite some time, haven't you? And you're definitely not alone. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. Look, I want to show you why my reset framework can get you to the place where your students are paying attention, engaged, self-regulating, and actually learning while you're teaching. I want you to stop piecing things together. I want you to stop looking around for the answer because I think you may have found it. I want you to start looking forward to going into school every single day. I'm going to help you to reset your classroom, and we're going to improve student behavior in the most effective way. All right, so are you in? Go to theinspiredclassroom.com/reset and see if this is the thing you've been looking for. So here's the big question. If a student truly doesn't want to get in trouble, why in the world do they keep doing the thing that gets them there? Because the answer, it isn't willpower, and it's not because the kid has a character flaw, really. It's that some need underneath is going unmet, and the behavior, as frustrating as it is the most effective tool that the student has found to meet that need. So today we're going to talk about how to know how to spot that need and exactly what to do instead of that typical response that just isn't working. Now, I do have to stop and tell you why this episode, this topic means a lot to me, because for years I thought that attention seeking was something that I needed to shut down or redirect or ignore or write it out. But what I didn't understand yet was that the need underneath it was actually real. And ignoring a real need doesn't make it go away, it just makes it louder. Now that understanding is baked into every step of my reset framework. In helping you to reset all the parts of the classroom that contribute to better student behavior, well, that is my mission. right? And I want you to be able to reset all these parts of your classroom without adding more stuff to what you already do, because we don't need time. We don't have time for that, right? And without starting any new curriculum, you've got enough to teach. And you can learn all 5 steps of the Reset framework in my free PDF. It's called the Reset Roadmap. You can find all the details about that at theinspiredclassroom.com/roadmap. And if you're actually ready to just jump in and get absolutely everything you could possibly want to know and more about the Reset framework, then go and check out my course. It's called the Classroom Reset, and I take you through all 5 of these steps personally and in the most effective, creative, and I would actually say enjoyable way. Okay, the Classroom Reset is where it is at. theinspiredclassroom.com/reset. Go there, check out all the details about that course, and see if it's the right fit for you. Now, here's the thing that we do need to consider as we start talking about those nudgy behaviors. For a lot of students, negative attention is actually better than no attention at all. It sounds backwards, doesn't it? I mean, getting in trouble doesn't feel good, so why would a student choose it? And I'm sure you've heard about this before, but when you actually pause to think about it, it kind of makes sense, especially when you start to think about it with a specific student in mind. When you think about the negative behaviors and you think about a certain student, you can start to understand that there's a lot more going on underneath than what meets the eye. And why would a student choose it? Well, because being seen, even in a negative way, it still confirms something that student is probably desperately needing to know. They want to understand that I exist here. Someone notices me. But when there's just silence, like a student being overlooked, maybe blending into the background, for some kids, that can actually feel worse than being redirected or talked to constantly, or, needing a pencil all the time, because silence confirms the opposite. It confirms their invisibility. Did I say that right? Invisibility. Now, I want you to keep this in mind. This isn't every student who's misbehaving, right? But it is some. And I wonder if you can start to pinpoint a student that you have now or you've had in the past that really will fit this description. That's why taking a moment to pause and think about these things is just so important. And I know that we teachers don't get enough of this time. So hopefully, when we go through some of these things here on the podcast, I'm helping you to get that time that you can actually pause and really think about some of these things. It can be so beneficial to you. And it's also been beneficial to me, by the way. For example, for me, I'm thinking about a boy that I had last year. I've talked about him before under the name of Devin. I was always redirecting him. And every time I did, he always had a smile on his face. But once I gave myself a chance to pause and reset what I was doing with him, his behaviors quieted right down. It was almost like I would go half a class into my class, into my math class, and I'd be like, is Devin even here? And there he was. It was truly amazing. Now, the behaviors that he didn't go away completely, but boy, did they quiet down. And sometimes that's all you need to remain a sane teacher. Every student is running a constant subconscious calculation about whether they're getting enough of what they need to feel like they belong in your classroom. You probably have had some students who just don't need as much of your attention as others, right? And if you think about it, there's a reason. They don't need that much attention. They're already getting that need satisfied somewhere else, usually in their home. But when a student is not getting enough of what they need, they will do almost anything to change that, even something that gets them in trouble. So where does this need actually come from? This isn't just a classroom management theory. It's rooted in something that's bigger. Belonging is foundational to how humans function. One of my favorite things to cite is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in this hierarchy, he puts belonging right after food, water, and safety. Okay, so at the bottom of his pyramid is food, water, safety, clothes, air, like that kind of stuff. And then it's this need for belonging. But this sense of belonging comes before a student can learn, before a student can achieve, before a student can get creative. So see how that works? There's those basic raw needs, food, water, safety. Then there's belonging. And then above that is where students can break out and learn and achieve things and get creative and start really thinking. A student can't truly be motivated in your classroom if they don't yet feel secure, like they belong in your room in the first place. And that reframes everything, right? A student who's constantly seeking attention isn't just saying, hey, look at me. They're actually asking something much more like, hey, do I actually belong here? And until that question is answered, nothing else that you offer is going to land the way you want to. Not rewards, not consequences, not even genuine encouragement about their work. Nothing's going to land until they truly feel like they belong. And that's why those first few weeks of school or with a new class is so important. And if you're listening to this and the school year is well underway, here's the good news. The good news is that it is never too late to work on belonging. It really isn't. It could be late May, and the effort that you take to create a sense of belonging for the student is so worth it. In fact, I'll let you in on a little secret. My story about Devin, that actually took place in May, and it was so worth it. And that's why the idea of a reset is so important to consider as a teacher. It is never a bad time to reset something in your classroom to make it just a little bit more accessible for students. And remember that free reset roadmap, that's waiting for you. I really want to encourage you to grab that. It's free. It's just a download. It's a PDF. Go to theinspiredclassroom.com/roadmap to grab that, okay? Now, a lot of what we're talking about here is embedded in the third step of the reset framework, the S that stands for support students' social emotional skills. And notice I'm not saying that we need to change how or what we're teaching. You know how to teach. It's just that sometimes we need that moment to pause and reset something in our teaching. We all do. I do. I still do, because every year we're getting new students, right? Our job is not mundane. And sometimes other things change as well, right? New programs, new schedules, new classrooms, new colleagues. We teachers are always in need of a reset. Now, I'm going to give you a quick action plan to try out with your attention-seeking students. But then stick around because I'm also going to be touching on a bit of a touchy topic, okay? So here's your 3-step plan and stay with me. This plan is going to help to create a bridge to the type of belonging that we're talking about, okay? So the first step is I want you to start noticing the behavior. Notice the attention-seeking behavior so that you can catch it before it escalates. So pick that one student whose attention-seeking pattern you already kind of know, right? One incident is not going to tell you very much, but A student who's consistently seeking attention around things like transitions, or when it's work time, or when you're focused on another student, or right before or after a weekend, or right before or after a vacation, that pattern is the real signal, and it's telling you exactly when to get proactive instead of reactive. So if it's happening during transitions, you're going to think about getting proactive at transitions with that kid. If it's during work time, you're going to be sure to go over to that kid and check in with him or her first. Okay? So notice the attention-seeking behavior and then go give them a proactive, specific attention today before the behavior even shows up. Not after it shows up. Get in there before. Step 2 is to give some praise. I want you to say it out loud and use real specific praise. Not just good job and a pat on the back or a tap on the desk. Do something specific like, I saw you help without being asked. Excellent. Or even, I love how you came prepared with the pencil today. The pencil thing is big for me. Maybe let the praise and your attention be very obvious. In other words, make sure your students notice you giving the praise and attention that he or she is seeking. So really make it obvious to them. Now, here's where I want to take a moment and push back on something that I hear a lot. That we, as a society, give kids too much positive praise these days. You know, the whole like everyone gets a trophy kind of thing. And believe me, I understand why people worry about that. In fact, I'm one of those people that worries about that. But here's what I want you to think about, okay? For some students, positive praise is not making them soft. It's actually necessary to bridge their way into better behavior. If a student's belonging need is unmet, praise is one of the fastest, clearest ways to start answering it. And as long as you're not making things up, right, but actually praising things that are legit, it says to the student in a language that he or she understands instantly, it says, I see you. You're doing something right. You belong here. That's not an indulgence. That's building a bridge that kid is so desperately seeking. Now, here's the other part of this, and this leads to the final step, okay? Step 3, I want you to watch for the pull back moment, that moment where you can just start pulling back. Because as you continue to acknowledge that student and his or her behavior starts to settle, you start shifting your acknowledgement to be a little bit more quiet and a little bit more natural, okay? The goal here isn't to praise everything forever, so that now they're craving praise and they're seeking out the praise. The goal is to get the student to a place where they can feel comfortable in your classroom to just behave better, right? And not seek out the attention in a negative way. And once that belonging starts to feel secure, you can start to pull back, move from frequent, obvious praise into just something that's more real and more natural. It might be a nod, a specific comment about their thinking, a private word with them outside of the class or at the desk instead of a public one where everyone hears the praise. Because the praise that you were once focusing on is the bridge, remember? The bridge that gets a student to a place where they don't need it as much anymore. And what you may start to actually find is that the student that you work with in this way, they'll behave well in your classroom, but then they'll act out in another space with another adult. And that's because you have taken the time to build that bridge and help that student feel like they belong in your classroom. What an amazing feeling that is. So which student came to mind while I was talking about all this? I want you to go use the bridging steps with that kid and just see how much of a difference you can make. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.